Now we're going to go over the accounting tab inside of Ion Pool Care. First things first, anytime you use the accounting tab to push jobs into QuickBooks so that we can collect money, you cannot do that from your local desktop that you're operating on. You actually have to go into the server or the cloud that hosts our QuickBooks data. That is inside the Right Network remote desktop login, which will be on your local um, computer. So once you have access to the Right Network's login, we'll just get signed into it. Let it do its thing for a minute here. This can take a minute sometimes. All right, so now we are in the cloud. We need to get QuickBooks opened up. QuickBooks has to be open and operating on the appropriate company file before we can push any money into our company file to be collected on. So if you don't do stuff within the Right Network remote server, it will cancel your session and close out all of your windows. So every once in a while, you're going to want to go into the Right Network server, kind of click around, make sure it acknowledges and refreshes so it doesn't kick you out, so you don't have to log in every time you want to do something. A bunch of pop-ups are going to come up when we open up our QuickBooks file. We're just going to exit out of all these and wait. All right, now we're good to go. QuickBooks is open. Next up, we have to go back to Google Chrome and open up Ion Pool Care again. Again, this is not on your desktop, your local. It's actually inside of a server that hosts for us. And we'll go ahead and get Ion pulled up. All right, and now we are in Ion again. So come over to the Accounting tab, and this is it. You have a few options here. The transaction type, the month, of course. We always want to push end of day. This is an end of day thing. Get any tasks you need into QuickBooks, collect that money. Get your work orders pushed into QuickBooks, get the money collected based on the agreements you've made with these customers. But we're going to look at September, and our transaction type we're going to choose is tasks for now. And I always come down here and to the sort order, and I choose descending. That way it shows the newest ones first. So right now we have Gretchen Whitehead to $117.99. Here's the deal with tasks. Tasks are dominantly weekly recurring service that is collected on the first of the month. And notice these, per visit, pre-billed, all of this stuff. So realistically, we won't really be pushing weekly services, or you won't be pushing weekly services into QuickBooks. The accounting department actually does that on the first. But what we need to actually address are filter cleans being pushed into QuickBooks so we can collect them. So notice this one says each visit, Gretchen Whitehead, $117.99. This is a filter clean. It's each visit. It does have an invoice date of 9/7/2018. Behind on these things due to getting this cloud actually set up. So disregard the date for this one. Usually these are caught up. But essentially what we need to do, notice 9/7 was the last one. We have to build these invoices. With tasks, you actually have to build the invoices manually. Work orders work a little bit differently, so we're just going to hit the build invoices thing, let it do it for just a little while, and then all we got to do is hit the refresh button. And then bam, now we have a whole slew of them. So per visit itemized consumables. These are filter cleans that need to be collected on. This is a new weekly that we started up. All this stuff needs to be pushed into QuickBooks. So what we're going to do is go ahead and start check marking all of these. Like I said, weekly recurring tasks that are collected on the first of the month, we're not going to be pushing those into QuickBooks. The accounting department will. But when we sign up a new weekly customer and we set them to task, after the job is closed out for the first time, what happens is it generates their prorated invoice, which is this one right here, per visit pre-billed. This is this new customer's amount that he owes us for the remainder of the month. In this case, we would push it to QuickBooks and actually collect the money on it, so it doesn't get lost into in with all the other stuff. And then on the first, it gets taken over by the accounting department. So we're going to check mark all these and then come down to here and release them. And we have to release these things from Ion so that QuickBooks can grab them and drag them into the system. So now we're going to just do this again, check mark all the ones that we need to push into QuickBooks. Once they're all check marked, we have a web connector essentially. So we have QuickBooks opened. It has to be open to be able to push these things into it. We released them, and now we'll just minus this down, and you have a little web connector that's just sitting in here, and then bam. Now all we have to do is hit this little button over here, check mark it, and then update the selected. So what's happening now is it's grabbing all of those task invoices that were generated from filter cleans and that prorated bill, and it's syncing them with QuickBooks. That way we can actually go collect money on it after it's been pushed through. So we'll just wait for this to get done, and then we'll go look at the work orders section of the accounting department as well. It's kind of the same concept, but just mildly different. Work orders you have to do more frequently, I guess is the best way to say that, because it's in real time. There are no recurring work orders. Those are all one-time items. All right, so now 100%, we're done with that. They have been pushed into QuickBooks, and they are ready for collections. So now what we can do is same concept. Just the only difference is we're going to change the transaction type over to work orders. I'm going to keep it as ascending, so I can see what I'm doing here. And you'll notice some of these are yellow, $0. I don't ever push $0 items into QuickBooks. We do a lot of tech quotes. Repair technician goes out to a job, builds an estimate, emails the estimate to the customer. They accept the estimate, so we end up pushing money into QuickBooks anyways. But then we have a $0 item as well because the tech quote. So you end up with a lot of duplicates in that process. But the whole thing is we have greens and yellows that are in here. The greens are ones that were pushed into QuickBooks, and we collected these dollar amounts for them. And a lot of the time, most of the time, the zeros, it's the original job that we went out on. We created a quote and the customer approved it. This is a fine example of it right here. She approved it, and we pushed this one into QuickBooks and collected money. And then 0, 0, these are signatures, stuff like that. Here's another one, $0, and then we pushed it into QuickBooks. These are 0 right now because we're working on quotes for those as well. Same concept though. What we would need to do is get these, release them. I'm going to use these $0 items as an example. We would release them, and then same thing. We would push them we would use the web connector right here, check mark, and then update the selected, and then right there, then they're going into the QuickBooks file so that we can actually collect money on the job. So, and that's it. I mean, that's using the accounting thing. The task invoices periodically, you have to go in and build those invoices, and then you can push as for our work order invoices. When a job is closed out, the technician creates the invoice, or the office will create the invoice for that. It's automatically set to. So if a repair technician's at a job and he closes it out, it's automatically going to create an invoice, and it's going to just pop up right here, and we got to do this process of pushing it into QuickBooks. If a technician forgets to actually generate an invoice, that's part of the watching what your technicians are doing throughout the day, see where they're at. When they finish a work order and there's money attached to that work order, we would need to actually open that up in their schedule. So let's just see if David has a work order for today. Nope. Somebody has one. Well, maybe not. Well, essentially what we would need to do is go to the customer's account. And we would actually need to create an invoice right over here. See all these say, see print invoice, right? It says invoice right here. This job is closed out. We would need to invoice this job. Do you want to create a new invoice? Yes. Once you create that invoice, then you can go to the accounting tab and actually push it through. So your technician's at a job, they've closed it out, there's money that's supposed to be collected, you're paying attention to what they're doing, and you notice they have not invoiced this because it's not showing up in your accounting tab right here. So you would need to go to that customer's account, create the invoice so you can push it into QuickBooks, and then of course call the technician and inform them that when you close out a job and there's money attached to it, there's a little button that you have to press that says create invoice. They need to press that button so that it doesn't get lost and not collected. And that's it. That's how you use the accounting module. If it seems a little daunting and you're concerned, obviously you're handling money, pushing money into QuickBooks, getting it collected. If you have any questions, always stop and ask just to make sure. This is really just a process of repetition of doing it because it's basically the same thing over and over and over again. So, but anyways, that's how you use it.